Good morning. Can you hear that? Can you hear it up there? I want you to take a look at this quote here. It's by one of my favorite Buddhist teachers, Pema Chodron. And she's an American nun in the Tibetan tradition, and she has this beautiful monastery at the end of Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. I was there 3 years ago. But look, she's talking about you're the sky, everything else is just the weather. And we've noticed weather the past 2 days pretty wild, right? You know, get rain, humidity, storms, cold weather coming in. Externally, all this weather happens. But the same thing happens inside of yourself. You know, there are all kinds of distractions, there are all kinds of worries, there are all kinds of anxieties. So you have internal weather too. So I want to talk a little bit about that. How do you deal with weather? And I'm going to talk about an 8-point program for we'll call it personal development, but I'm really talking about spiritual development. So my good friend Ben's got the slides up there, so we can come to the next one. So this is an 8-point program. This can be really helpful. Take what you can from it. I don't believe in panaceas, cure-alls for everything, but everything helps. You know, you want to get in shape. You want to work out. You want to eat right. You want to study. You want to learn. I mean, everything contributes to developing yourself. So take what you can from this. But this is a program. One of my many spiritual teachers. You know, I come out of. I'm the chaplain. I'm ordained in the United Church of Christ. That's the Congregational Church in New England. You see all the big white churches. Also the United Methodist Church, raised Episcopalian, baptized Catholic, go to Quaker meeting with my mother-in-law, very influenced by Benedictine and Franciscan spirituality. So I draw a lot from the Christian tradition, but I draw on many other traditions. So one of my teachers in college, this goes back 40 years, is Eknath Ishwaran, and he comes from Kerala, India. Studied, you know, he met Gandhi as a young person. He taught at Berkeley for many years. He was an English literature professor, but what he's really known for is starting the Blue Mountain Meditation Center, Petaluma, California. So I want to talk about the program. The first of the 8 is meditation. We talk a lot about that today. You know, meditation, I still get letters from students who are athletes saying, what was that meditation thing we did in class? We're doing it in lacrosse at University of Virginia. One of my students from a few years ago from Sweden wants to go study in India and visit an ashram and learn about meditation. So meditation is really important. There are many different forms of it. But one of the ways to think about it is the Patanjali, 2,300 years ago, Indian saint, in the Yoga Sutras, he says, meditation is the intentional stopping of the spontaneous activity of the mind stuff. And it gets back to that internal weather. How do you stop particularly now with you seniors, all the stress November 1st of the anxieties and the competition? So it's just a slowing down and breathing. Now I tell this story a lot, but only my students know. But one of my favorite teachers is a Buddhist monk from Vietnam, Thich Nhat Hanh, and he has a monastery in France because Vietnam was colonized by the French. It's called Plum Village. I had a chance to go there a few years ago. They used to settle refugees from Southeast Asia during the war. And so one little girl named Tan Tui used to be living at the monastery. And she's outside on a hot day. And at the monastery, they raise plum trees and apple trees. And all the money that they make goes to help resettle refugees who are orphans from the war. So little Tan Tui is 5 years old, and she calls Thich Nhat Hanh, the older monk that I love, Uncle Monk. She's outside running around all sweaty and hot. And then she comes into the monastery and says, Uncle Monk, I'm thirsty. And he goes in the refrigerator, he takes out pours a fresh glass of apple juice. But she sees all the pulp swirling around in the juice. And of course, naturally, as a 5-year-old, what do? You know, yuck. So she puts it down, and she goes back out. I'm going to come over here. You guys still awake up there? I hope you are. So he puts it down on a windowsill. She goes out and plays for half an hour, comes running in, and she asks for something to drink again. So he takes that same glass, he gives it to her, she drinks it down. Oh, it's so good. Where's the other glass, Uncle Monk? That's the glass. He said, I put it on the windowsill we were outside. It was meditating. So the idea, you sit, you breathe, and all the anxieties, the fears, the worries that you all have, we all do. This is part of the human condition. They begin to settle. They begin to settle within. You just take that time out to sit for maybe 20 minutes. And it just settles. And there have been studies. We don't have to say, well, we could say Harvard, because we like to throw the names like Ivy League schools out there. But there have been studies at Harvard and other places say even within, if you do 20 minutes of meditation for even within less than a week, they'll notice changes in the brain. Brain changes already happening. So just settling, just the idea of sitting, breathing, being present, because we don't have that time here because it's so fiercely competitive, isn't it? You know what Scola means? The root word of it comes from free time. School was always a time set apart for free time to get away from the rat race, to study, to reflect, think. But we don't have time in our prep schools and our colleges, universities to really stop and really do the deep, we zip through an important poem that needs reflection, important piece of literature, and we're looking at a piece of artwork, but we don't have the time to slow down and stop, and that's coming up. Ben? So mantra. Anybody know what mantra means? It's a Sanskrit word. I love Sanskrit words. Mantra, loosely translated, man is mind, tree is to cross. So a mantra is something that takes us across the mind. And mind's like a sea. I live by the ocean in Maine. I love it. I love the wildness of the ocean in Maine, particularly in winter. But the mind can be wild. And so the mantra is like a raft that takes you across the shore. And so it's a sacred word. You all have a mantra. Everyone here has a mantra. And that means you have a thought or an idea that you repeat over and over again to yourself. Hopefully, and sometimes the mind tends toward negativity. I can't do it. Whatever it is, it programs the mind, gets into your unconscious. So why not have a mantra, a word, a sacred phrase? I mean, there are many. If you read the book, J.D. Salinger's, Franny and Zoe, talks about the Jesus prayer. That's been around for almost 2,000 years. The Greek monks chant that, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. Or in the Jewish tradition, Baruch atah Adonai, you hear that, Lord of the universe. Allahu Akbar would be one for Muslims. The people who are Catholic have the Rosary and the Hail Mary, the Ave Maria. In Sanskrit, there are things in Hinduism like Om Namah Shivaya, Buddhism, Om Mani Padme Hum. There are multiple amounts of mantras, but it could be just a thought, a good thought. Program yourself in a positive way. So a mantra is important because you'll notice when all the thoughts that run through your mind. So if you're waiting in line, you're doing something, you have a positive thought that becomes your mantra. It could be religious or spiritual, but maybe it's just about love or compassion, whatever it is. Focus on that. Don't let all the distracting thoughts come in, the judgmental thoughts, the angry thought. I mean, they're going to come, but just let them pass like clouds. Watch them, observe them. Ben? Slowing down. Wow. We're such a fast-paced society. Again, Thich Nhat Hanh says, where are we rushing to? We're rushing to our death. How much time do you have on this planet? Even if you live 100 years, it's not a lot of time. What are you doing here? Where do we get time to stop, reflect, think about who we are and where we're going? Everyone's telling us what to do, our school, our parents, society, what makes for success. We're on this treadmill, zipping through. Even if we go to the best schools and university and get the best job, have the biggest house, what are we doing? We slow down. We can see more clearly. And these are all interconnected. This is deeply connected to meditation, the idea of slowing down our lives so we can enjoy. We don't have the time here. This is one of the things. We add things to our schedule. We don't take away. A lot of good things. I think I've been the head of the fishing club for 5 years. We've been out two times maybe. And all the 45 other clubs, right? How often do they meet? They're great clubs. We don't have time. Where do we slow down where we could have the cup of coffee, the tea, we can look at our roommates, our good friends' face, we can have a deep, soulful conversation. Soulful is just that meaningful conversation, that meaningful interaction with someone that we don't have a time. So slowing down. Next one, Ben, is one-pointed attention related, focusing. If I'm talking to my son or my daughter or, God willing, the 3 grandchildren on the way, which is pretty exciting, and I hope 3 grandchildren on the way. No grandchildren, now 3 on the way. God willing, they'll be, it's a blessing just to have a healthy child. But if I'm not focused, I'm talking to my son or daughter, and I'm thinking about a million other things, I'm not there. I'm not present. So when we're talking to one another, sometimes we got our phones going. I do this. All the teachers do it. All your parents. Get the phones going. We've got all these distractions in our lives. Put them down. Have human interaction. Be one-pointed. Have this one-pointed focus in our lives. Life becomes much deeper and richer. It's hard to do in our society, I know. But making that attempt, it's closely related to slowing down and having that one-pointed attention so we can focus. The whole idea of multitasking doesn't exist. There's no such thing. So it's like shining a beam of light. It's concentrated at one point, but if it goes through a bunch of holes, it gets scattered. Our mind gets scattered when we're trying to do 5 different, and I try and do this too, I'm like you, but mindfulness is bringing myself back, becoming aware. I'm multitasking, I'm doing too many things at once. I have to focus my mind on what I'm doing now. Leads to the next one, which is training the senses. What we bring into our lives. What we eat, what we drink, bless you. What we eat, what we drink, bless you again. But what we eat, what we drink, what we take in through media, through videos, through everything into our system. You'd think that things don't affect you, but they do. I had one of my favorite professors. My second favorite was Howard Zinn, People's History, he changed my life, People's History of the United States. But the first one was an Old Testament professor who spoke 8 languages. Wonderful human being. I took 8 courses with him. But he just said, there's a simple thing I remember, he said, from all these great lectures, is that you become what you spend your time with. You become it in time. Whatever you spend your time with, you become it. So for me, I want to be hanging around with a lot of spiritual teachers, and they could be Buddhist or Hindu or Christian. I'm on the spiritual track. I want to be around the people because I want to grow not only my mind, but my spirit, my soul. And so I'm around those people. I want to become like them, whoever they're the Gandhis, the Martin Luther Kings, the Nelson Mandelas. Mandela was a deeply religious person, but he didn't talk about it. He had his prayer time because he didn't want to divide people in a multi-religious South Africa. So, and all these great leaders had a spiritual practice of some kind. So training the sense, what are you bringing in? And is it going to hurt you? Is it going to hurt your body? Is it going to hurt your mind? Is it going to hurt your soul? Is it going to get in the way the things you're bringing into yourself? Is it going to get in the way of your goals that you have for yourself? Vaping's a big one, right? It's not just here, but around the country, but a lot of kids are dying. It's really serious. Is it really helping your body? So think about what you're taking in. Food, drink, drugs, and video, media, all the images that are being implanted in your mind. What's healthy for you? Think about what's healthy for you physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and what's not. Putting others first. Now, this relates closely to our motto, not to be served, but to serve, which comes out of the Gospels, the New Testament, right? Jesus talked about that. Putting others first, but putting others first, you don't neglect yourself. You take care of yourself. One of the beautiful things in Buddhism, they teach you must first have compassion toward yourself. Toward yourself. When you can really, what's the great commandment in the Bible? Love God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. Love your neighbor as yourself. So there's God, there's neighbor, there's self. Take care of yourself. That means, but just realize you're part of a bigger whole. We hear this word all the time, and all the scientists will tell you everything in this universe is interconnected. We're all part of one another. We're all deeply interconnected and intertwined. So being mindfully aware of the needs of others around you here in the school, teachers, students, the staff, the people in the kitchen, their lives, contemplating what their lives are like, getting here at 6 in the morning. Be mindful, say hi, be courteous, pick up your plate. Do what you need to do, keep clean because they're working hard. Just being aware of people around, not just the ego. We get so wrapped up in our ego. What's ego in Latin? It's I. We need what is Copernican revolution? Who's Copernicus? Copernicus and Galileo. They thought the sun revolved around the earth. Of course it didn't. Realize the earth revolves around the sun, but the world doesn't revolve around me or you. It revolves around all of us. We're part of a whole. Get out of the ego. This is where all the suffering and the problems come in life. When we're sucked into our own little world, woe is me. We all have problems. We all have challenges to deal with. But when we build a community where we can trust one another and listen to one another attentively, be one-pointed attention, slow down, we can we can heal each other and help each other through the difficulties in life. So putting others first, serving. just to check it off, but the realizing we're one people, not only here in Taft, but in this planet. Community. I was going to put down the Sanskrit word that I like is satsang. Satsang is when the group gathers together for a spiritual gathering in an ashram. And so it's basically about community. Sat in Sanskrit means truth or reality, and sangha means community, group, association. So a satsang or community, when we gather together, and I think this is what we're doing in Morning Meeting. We're seeking the truth. What is truth? What is reality? What is fundamental? What is basic? What is the essence of our lives? Who are we? So we gather together a lot. I think of it, Joe, in terms of gathering in a meditation group, doing some spiritual reflecting on our lives, who we are. So, but this is our community. This is our sangha. This is our satsang. Coming together. We're on a path. We're on a journey. Think of it this way. I always think of my life as a spiritual pilgrimage. Even though I'm walking to driving to the same place every day, you're coming from the dorms. It's not the same every day. Every day is different. Every day of your lives is different. There are little things, notice things. Life goes fast. You're graduating soon, you got your job, suddenly you're as old as me, and you're your grandfather on the way. And then there's not a lot of time left. There's a lot of dreams, but not a lot of time left. So community, we're searching for truth and understanding together. And the hope is that we give birth to what another Sanskrit word, bodhicitta, which is the compassionate heart, the enlightened, awakened heart. Our problems in this world, doesn't matter what our political affiliations are, what our ethnic, religious background are, if we can awaken the heart. Because there's too much focus on the intellect, too much here. That's always been the problem in academia, particularly in the Western culture. We got to educate the heart. Awaken the heart, call it what you will. Words don't grasp what it is. And I think it's always about, every religion is about this, giving birth to compassion, and empathy, awakening, and love that comes with it. And then the last one's literature. I was going to say spiritual literature. It's really good to have something good to read, particularly before you go to bed. I've got multiple books from many different religious traditions, many different writers, hundreds of books. I could always give you some ideas. But to put something good in your head every day, just a passage that you go through that enriches your life. One for me is like St. Francis's prayer, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there's despair, hope. Where there's darkness, light. Grant, O divine master, that I might not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. It is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, it is in dying to our smaller, constricted ego selves that we are born into life, into eternal life. He says, into life. We see the big picture of life. So these are 8 points, take what you will from them, ways to help you with your life, with your anxieties, with your fears, with your stresses. Know that life's a lot bigger. It's going to be okay if you don't get into the college you have to get into. Things are going to work out. There are obstacles and challenges along the way. They're always going to be there. But think of obstacles and challenges and setbacks and difficulties as being your teachers. Those losses, those things teach us about life. If we're aware, we learn from them and we grow. So, God bless. Have a great day. Thanks.